Well, it seems to me that this episode also reverberates through much of what you've written, including Life as We Know It, What's Liberal About the Liberal Arts, and Rhetorical Occasion, which is, it seems to me that you are trying to, maybe you wouldn't like this metaphor, but, you know, mount a kind of rescue operation on anti-foundationalism in the face of it, sort of trying to say, look, that's not what I meant at all. This is what I mean by this, and try to...
Trisomy 21 is a real thing, you know. Understanding what it is to feats of human ingenuity, which we should be proud. It doesn't mean that what happens after a child trisomy 21 is born is of no moment. I like to say about this that I think it was my 4 years in Jesuit high school. I never was on the debate team, but I learned a certain technique that, you know, let's say there's a whole table full of argument. If I reach this yay far on the table and I win that argument, I get all the arguments on my side, right? If I can, that doesn't work that way in real, but that's the way I think of these things. That with regard to the nature-nurture debate, that the social facts and social policies are as important to the life of a child with Down syndrome as they are, while ceding the fact that Down syndrome is clearly a massive biochemical event, then I think I've made the case for nurture over nature arguments with regard to things less nebulous. I'm sorry, more nebulous than trisomy 21. In other words, there's a certain realm, as I argue on rhetorical occasions, following John Searle, yeah, there's a realm of brute fact. It doesn't care what we think about it. Neptune is just Neptune. You know, chromosomal non-disjunctions are what they are. But once they get out into the world actually, you know, of humanities and social sciences in which we live, then you find that social fact draws the distinction between brute fact and social fact, but actually has an effect on brute facts. You do early intervention with kids with disabilities, they have different quality lives. It's really that simple. And to say that is not to be, you know, fully social constructionist about this. So when you talk about mounting a rescue operation for anti-foundationalism, I also think of it as, you know, trying to give the physical and chemical world its due while not letting that kind of discourse set the terms for what everything else should be saying. Just the fact that there are objective or observer-independent physical facts doesn't mean that you model philosophy and ethics on that. The social realm is it remains, you know, not only distinct from that realm, the world, you know, the realm that we have created, but actually can help to change what the physical facts of a child's life might mean. And I keep fixing the child, but I have a child. You can still be an anti-foundationalist with regard to social policy while acknowledging, you know, Neptune and trisomy 21.
Can go one step back and say, what anti-foundationalism, I think, goes under a variety of names. That's the one that you prefer to use, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us what you mean by that, and why that's your, in a nutshell, why that's your philosophical position.
Ooh, the in a nutshell part
yeah.
is hard. But I think with regard to human affairs, the idea that human laws, morals, customs, beliefs are of our making and no one else's is just a more useful and less destructive way to live. For one thing, this is the nutshell part, what really animated me in the last couple of years to go back over this, because again, it's not directly Sokol related, but it's indirectly Sokol related, is the passage in Sam Harris's book, The End of Faith, where he's going after Richard Rorty. And, you know, he's well out of his league here, but nevertheless, I think a lot of readers of his would agree that unless we think of philosophy as a kind of epistemological physics, we will be lost. There are laws out there, and it is our job to discover what these ethical laws are. Sam Harris, various philosophical objectivists, you know, these philosophers, for whatever reason, extremely uneasy with the idea that we're making it up. That we're making up theories of justice, we're making up theories of human rights as we go along. And as the way I see it, the advantage of doing that is that, as in Rorty's work, you prevent yourself from thinking that everyone who thinks otherwise is self-evidently wrong or simply depraved or deficient. You have to come to terms with the fact that they have reasoned using different faculties of reason, whatever, and have come up with different conclusions. You have to be sort of a resigned and realistic pragmatist about disagreement in world affairs. That's what I think the advantage of it is. And it helps you cope with the fact that, god damn, those other people are so strange. Their minds think differently than ours, or mine, or yours. And there's no getting around that simply by appealing to a kind of epistemological physics. At the same time, there is physics. But yeah, that's where I think, anti-foundationalism with regard to human affairs, we're just making this stuff up. Even Rawls will admit it. Yeah, theory of justice. I'm reading a paper from a student of mine in the disability studies class, finding these various moments of just sheer intuitionism in theories of social justice from Nussbaum to Rawls. And see, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the hypothesis that these are just things we created one day. As Rorty would say, no different from interesting poets or writers in the last 5,000 years. So that's, I don't think that's a rescue operation so much as just a sort of more principled defense of why it is just, I would say, better in the way of belief to act and live as anti-foundationalists in human affairs, while noticing that one really interesting corner of human affairs does involve discovering things that are completely independent of us. It's amazing that they can do it, and it doesn't really have any ramifications for social justice one way or the other. It's just interesting that we discover these various physical principles of the universe, that's all.